Hey tea heads, this is Don from Mayleaf. Let me give you a little insight into the struggles that I have had with this particular tea here, not just over the past few years, but pretty much ever since I started out in tea over 20 years ago. This tea is traditional, smoked Lapsang Souchong, loved by many, hated by many, certainly has courted controversy over the years. For many people, smoked Lapsang is their first ever what is this moment with tea, where they are sort of taken aback by a taste that they have not encountered before. This tea is one of the first black teas ever produced, if not the first black tea ever produced. It comes from Tongmuguan, Tongmu village. If you want to dive deeper into the history of this tea and see the most special birthplace of black tea, then go check out our video visiting Tongmuguan. I'll put a link in the description below. So smoked Lapsang Souchong is probably the first ever taste of black tea out there, or at least one of the first ever black teas produced. And of course, we want it in our collection. But like many, I have a love-hate relationship with this tea. So I want to dive into that and tell you a little bit about the struggles that I've had sourcing this tea. And like all struggles, what kind of creative solution I have found to overcome those struggles. Before we get into this, of course, we have unsmoked Lapsang Souchong, which I adore. We've got Souchong liquor, we've got a little Tongmu, there may be others. I love unsmoked Lapsangs, and certainly the trend amongst sort of tea sellers and sort of the youth in the tea drinking world is to move towards unsmoked teas. But don't let anybody tell you that the traditional smoked variety has sort of lost favor in Tongmuguan or those particular areas of Wuyi in Fujian province, because they haven't. When I went to Tongmuguan, the old tea heads were all vehemently sticking to their pine smoked Lapsang Souchong, and they were sort of looking at the unsmoked stuff saying, yeah, okay, that's a sort of modern variation, but this is the real deal. So, you know, if any sellers out there telling you that it's no longer sort of considered a tea to drink in China, that's not the case. Certainly it is the case that a lot of the smoked stuff gets exported, and a lot of the smoked stuff is really, really, really poor quality, not produced in that particular area. So there's many, many different grades, just like in all tea, of smoked Lapsang Souchong. And of course, the quality of the tea is dependent on all sorts of factors: the terroir, the cultivar, how it was picked, how it was processed, but then of course how it was smoked. And the way that it's traditionally smoked is in these big sort of, they look like houses, basically wooden houses, where the leaves are all sort of placed above, one floor above, and underneath there's the pine wood embers that are smoking. Now, the type of pine wood has to be, in my opinion, really should be the native pine wood varieties in that area, which are very resinous and have a lot of aromatic compounds. So not just the quality of the leaves and how it was processed into black tea is important, but of course the type of wood that is used, the age of the tree. When I was in Tongmu, they kept on talking about how it was harder and harder to make good smoked Lapsang Souchong, because they really want to use pine wood trees that are older, because they're more resinous, they have more fragrance. So there was a lot of talk of how much further they had to go out into the sort of forest out of Tongmu in order to source these trees. So the quality of the wood, fundamentally important. The age of the pine wood tree, very, very important. Then, of course, how carefully it was smoked, the temperature that it was smoked at. Don't want it to be too hot. You don't want to develop too many of those burnt pyrazine notes. You want obviously some of those that smoky notes to develop, but you don't want too much. The length of time of smoking, how long the tea is rested after smoking, all of these factors are going to come into play when defining the quality. And I have to say, like many people out there have experienced, the quality of the smoked Lapsang Souchong generally is declining, and a lot of the stuff that hits the international market is not worth your time. But we want to source good smoked Lapsang Souchong, and you may have seen that previously we switched it up a little bit, and we managed to source a Longan wood smoked Lapsang. We called it Longan Lapsang. So that was a Lapsang Souchong that was smoked over Longan wood, which gave it a particularly fruity nature. And I really, really love that tea, and I wanted to keep sourcing it, but that's no longer being produced. Something to do with sourcing the Longan wood and, you know, it being a very specialty sort of market, and the producer doesn't want to make it anymore. A big, big shame. So we have not sourced Longan Lapsang for a couple of years, and I've been desperately trying to find a Truyền traditional smoked Lapsang Souchong that I really, really love. But I haven't found it. And the reason for that is not simply because of the fact that, you know, I can't find good tea, because there is good quality tea produced and smoked in the proper terroir, in the proper way, using good pine wood. The problem that I have with the pine wood smoked Lapsang Souchong is I feel like even if it's produced properly, when I taste it, there is something missing in the tea. It's not just that the smoke has sort of added smoke and maybe disguised other flavors, but it seems to strip a certain sort of central element of the tea out. And that central element gives roundness, gives body, and gives a certain fruity sweetness. And so even with good quality, super high quality, Truyền smoked Lapsang Souchong, I did not feel that I wanted to purchase because of that sort of emptiness. So what I've done instead is I have sourced a really high quality Tongmu Lapsang Souchong that's been smoked over pine wood, but I've also sourced an unsmoked Lapsang Souchong that I think will add back that body, that sweetness, that fruitiness, and that, it's hard to describe, that sort of depth that I feel is missing when you smoke the tea. And so we are now releasing this, our traditional Lapsang Souchong blending set that comes with two teas. One of them is pinewood smoked, the other is not. They're both from 70-year-old tea trees from Tongmu, so really high quality starting material, and this one is smoked really, really well. Not over smoked, not overpowering, really, really well smoked tea. So quickly scoping these teas, they're from April 2021. I would not be purchasing any smoked teas that is sort of this year, or like, you know, at least you don't want to be drinking the smoked teas within sort of 5-6 months of it being smoked, because it needs time for that, the flavors to settle, the smoke to settle in. April 2021, the cultivar is the Xingchun Xiaozhong, the original sort of cultivar, small leaf cultivar there. The origin is Tongmu Guan, Tongmu village. Picking and processing is going to be sort of young leaves, a few buds in there, elevation around 1,200 meters. So if you purchase this set, then what I recommend you do, you don't have to, you can just mix them together, but what I recommend you do is brew them separately so that you can really understand what I'm trying to say here about the impact, the great things that the smoke gives, but also what it takes away and how you can add that back in to your final brew. I'm going to heat up this teaware. I've got 5 grams of each here. And of course, you can start to play and find your own blends. And this is what I would recommend you do. Rather than mixing it immediately in a gaiwan or a pot, what I recommend you do is brew them separately, and then you can work out your ratios of what works for you. Because even though I have found a 50-50 split on this to be perfect, you might prefer a little bit more smoke, a little bit less smoke, and that's the joy of this blending set, is you can play with it. All right, so let's go for the smoked tea first. Let's smell the dry leaf. That's not the smoked, sorry, did it the wrong way around. Let's do this one. Okay, so I'm picking up like that peated whiskey note, a little bit savory, the phenols, the I think it's pyrazines, like all of these really sort of engaging smoky notes, not burnt, not acrid, still sweet, like, you know how you can have a sort of sweet peated whiskey? It has that smell to it. The level of smoke is exactly right for me. I don't think it's too much. I don't think it's in any way over the top or acrid. But but it's still there. It's still prominent. And of course, that is what's dominating the smell. But I'm also getting sweetness like cinnamon in terms of a spiciness. Cinnamon, clove, those sweet spices. Right, now the unsmoked. Chocolates, woods and fruits. So you've got the smoke here, but I feel like I just want to add more woodiness, more chocolatiness, and more of those sort of longan and lychee fruity notes. So I'm getting longan, I'm getting lychees, I'm getting some wet woods and more like, not really cocoa, more like chocolate covered raisins, but a dark chocolate covered raisin. Okay, let's give these a quick rinse. So I've got 2 of these double wall Gong Da Bays, and you are going to notice a difference in color as well here. And that's another thing that I find amazing, that the smoking of the tea seems to actually make for a lighter color. You can see that just on the rinse. How much lighter is this rinse compared to the unsmoked variety? Right, let's have a sniff of these wet leaves. Oh, really like impactful. Lots and lots of sweet smoke. I mean, it reminds me of those summer barbecue. You know, I'm somebody who likes to smoke foods quite a lot. So for me, this is the smell of like late night tending your smoker with love and attention. It's sweet. It's got those emotional sort of ties with fireplaces or campfires, you know, that sort of the feeling of gathering around a fire. So it brings an emotive quality to the tea. I'm getting still cinnamon, a little bit of cardamom. So the smokiness tends to accentuate those spicy notes in the tea. Yeah, a little bit of clove as well. The fruits are there, but they're very sort of distant. And this would be different from if you smelt longan lapsang, which because of its smoking over fruit woods, gave it a more prominent fruitiness. There is a fruitiness here. I would again say spiced apples, like if you had a clove spiced apples, you take some cloves and you stick them in apples and you poach them, or you bake them. The raisins are there as well. Yeah, cooked apples, raisins. Okay. Now, let's have a sniff from the tea head guy one. Just absolutely completely different. Now, they're not the same tea bushes, but they are in the same area, the same age. So they're very, very similar. And the difference is remarkable. That in itself is one reason to really grab this kit, because it really gives you a very clear experience of the difference that smoking makes. I'm getting really fudgy brownies, moving into the sort of what is it called? Millionaire shortbread. So shortbread and caramel with chocolate topping. The brownies, very bright notes are coming through as well. So I'm getting longan and even tinned lychees. So you can see how different they are and how they may complement each other. Right, let's brew this up. We're going to brew for about 30 seconds. Let me know your experiences with Lapsang Souchong. You know, a lot of people, as I say, sort of have that what the hell is this moment when they first try this tea, and some people will have had only bad experiences with this tea, I have no doubt, because it is one of those teas that there's a lot of really poor quality Lapsang Souchong, especially on the foreign market. And it is true that generally the trend in China is away from these teas, but as I said, the heads in Tongmuguan, they're drinking this. This is their jam. Okay, left-handed pour. Let's see the color difference here. Look at that. See how different that is? I hope you can see how different that is. That is very, very, very different in terms of color. And that's remarkable, because you'd think of it the other way around. Whoops, you'd think of it the other way around, wouldn't you? You'd think that the smoked one somehow would be darker, but it's not. And that's sort of, I guess, one of the issues I have, is I feel that the smoking, whilst adding a certain, well, a very specific element, can also strip out certain elements that I think are, you know, elements that I want in my tea. Okay, let's do the smoked one first. Texture, medium, medium to thick, nice, like got an oily consistency to it. Taste. Of course, first infusion is going to be more dominated by the smoke, but it is beautifully restrained. I'm getting almost like a biscuity quality to the tea. I can imagine this working really well with actually like just very simple biscuits. I'm getting also a creamy quality, as well as the smoke and the spice. So in the smoked variety, I'm getting the smoke, the sort of peated whiskies. I'm getting like creaminess, milkiness, no, creaminess, not milkiness, like an oily creaminess in the texture and the taste. I'm getting those sweet spices, cinnamons and cloves, and I'm getting a warmth, like a biscuity warmth out of it. Really, really lovely. Would I have selected this just by itself? No. The reason is not because I don't think it's a great smoked Lapsang Souchong, because I've tasted loads, but I think that even when smoked Lapsang Souchong over Pinewood is at its best, I still don't think that I would source it for Mayleaf, because of the fact that I still feel that there's something missing in the tea. And this goes across the board. I've tasted Lapsang Souchongs in the homes of like the oldest tea farmers in Tongmu, right? And I always feel the same thing. Great taste, very impactful. I love it, but there's something that's missing. And that something is a body and a richness. Now, let's taste this. Sweet, so sweet. It's not a sugared Lapsang, but it has sweetness to it. It's got, in terms of the texture, it moves on the mouth in a different way. It's, yeah, it's slightly oily, but it has more physicality. It's bringing out more juiciness. It's clearly there are compounds in this tea which are reacting more with my mouth. It has more of a physical nature, and you know how much I love that. Sweet woods, chocolate brownies, burnt brownies, slightly singed brownies, just the corner bit of the brownie, with raisins and lychee sweetness in the finish, like tinned lychee or longan sweetness. Lovely, lovely tea. Different from our Little Tongmu, different from our Souchong Leke for those of you who have experience, because this one was specifically chosen to fill exactly the holes that I feel are missing in the smoked stuff. And you know, it goes without saying that if you love the smoked stuff as it is, enjoy it. Of course, then, you know, if that's your jam, that's your jam. But as I said, the reason why I've struggled over the last 20 odd years with this tea is because even the absolute best stuff that I could find, I'm not talking about longan Lapsang, which sadly we can't get anymore, but even with the best Pinewood Lapsang that I found, I've always felt that it was missing something. Right, we're going to drink these again because I want to do a second brew and then we'll mix them. I mean, it's like got high notes, it's got, it's wrapped around with this lovely vaporous sweet smokiness and all that spice, but it's just missing that central element, like that there's a hole in the middle of that tea. And that is all about that body and fruitiness and sweetness. Okay, let's brew these again. Similar amount of time. And then we can do our blending. And I hope that if you get this kit that you're gonna, or this set, that you're gonna enjoy this blending process. And I'll say, just as a separate note, if you're interested in blending teas or creating your blends, this is the way that I would advise you to do it. Brew separately, mix in the cup, and work out your ratios before you start committing to brewing them together. Color is probably gonna be similarly different. Yep, it is. Okay, so put these to the side. That's my unsmoked. Yep, that's my smoked. Very easy to tell the difference. We're gonna pour some in here. We're gonna pour some in here. And then I'm gonna do a 50-50 split in this, our new cup. I don't know when it's coming in. It might not be in yet. From Jing De Jen. Love this cup. Okay, so that's about a 50-50 split. Okay, here we go. You can tell the color difference. Second infusion, more of the cinnamon, more of the spice, slightly toned down on the smoke. Very, very lovely. Creamy as well. Yeah, chocolatey, chocolate raisins, chocolate brownies. Little like grenadine fruit syrup in there as well. Here we go. And there is the recompleted whole. The original character of the leaf, the body, the fruitiness, the chocolatiness, the sweetness of that leaf, but with that added shroud of lovely smokiness and sweet spice. That, for me, is the smoked Lapsang Souchong that I can never find. And I don't think is possible to find. So this is, for me, the perfect Trentong Lapsang Souchong. It's just got everything that I would want in a Lapsang Souchong, but could never get. And as I said, one of the great things about struggles is it forces you to find creative solutions. And this is my creative solution. What am I doing? I just want this one. This is my creative solution. Blend your own. Make your own Lapsang Souchong, and you can blend it exactly as you want. So you could make it to be just a little whisper of smoke, or you can make it to be much more punchy in terms of that smokiness, depending on how much you enjoy. And once you've figured out your ratios, maybe 70-30, 40-60, whatever, then you can apply that by just adding, by weight, the amount of leaf. So you could use, 3 grams and 2 grams, etc., etc., etc. One last sip of this. I am super happy because I've finally cracked the nut, which has been the bane of my black tea sourcing over the past 20 years. Make a blending set. So there you go, the Lapsang, traditional Lapsang blending set, if you want to try it out. Let me know your thoughts on Lapsang Souchong. I know it courts a lot of controversy. I would be interested to hear what you think. That's it, tea heads. Check out our other videos, taste our teas wherever you are in the world by browsing mayleaf.com, and come visit us if you're ever in London. Other than that, I'm Don from Mayleaf. Thank you for being a part of the revelation of true tea. Stay away from the tea bags, keep drinking the pinnacle stuff, and spread the word, because nobody deserves bad tea. Bye.